All right, so let's just start out. Let's take our hands to our shoulders, roll our shoulders up and back a few times, just kind of checking in. We carry a lot of tension in our neck and our shoulder area, maybe moving in the other direction. So just kind of working that out a little bit before we even start. And then from here, just roll your head and neck either to side, your chin to the chest over towards one side, maybe over towards the other, or just around in a circle. Just kind of whatever feels good. And then we're going to come and just take our hands, interlace them behind our back, draw our shoulders down and back, sit up nice and tall. So you just want to make sure that you're kind of not rounding or hunched over. And this stretch is a really good stretch if you can kind of remember to do it a few times a day, because it's a good counter stretch for all the forward hunching we do over our phones, over our computers, just while driving, just a lot of daily things that we tend to do. This helps kind of reverse that kind of forward hunching, and helps decrease the tension in the neck as well. And whenever you're ready, you can just release and just relax your hands maybe on your knees or just by your side, and start to close your eyes or just soften your gaze looking out at the water. And we're just going to start with some breathing. So really just start out by noticing your breath and lengthening your breath. So taking long, deep inhales in through your nose. Long, deep exhales out through your nose. Noticing the sensation of your breath as it moves through your body. So notice as you breathe in, your belly fill up with air, your ribs expand, your chest rise. And then as you breathe out, your chest drops, your ribs knit together, and your belly empties out. So we'll do this just a few more times. With each breath, just start to feel your body relaxing a little bit more, and start to kind of really become present. So also calming down your mind and really focusing for the next hour or so on being exactly where you're at, being here now. You can even kind of remind yourself of that as a mantra. If you notice your mind starts to wander too much, just kind of come back to that idea of being here now, using your breath as a tool to come back to. And taking a moment here, now we're outside on the water, really just feeling what it's like to be here. So noticing all the sounds from the marina, the city, the wind, the waves, the feeling. So the feeling of kind of that medium breeze, the warm air, the breeze cooling us off, the sun starting to set. And embracing it, so not wanting to change it at all, just embracing it for exactly what it is right now. And then just take a moment and remind yourself of something you're grateful for. Maybe set an intention for class before we start. And then from here, you can just slowly open up your eyes if your eyes are closed. And we're just going to add a little easy movement to our breath. So you're going to reach your arms out to the side. As we inhale, we're going to reach out and up, maybe dropping your head back, looking up to the sky. And then on your exhale, reach out and back down. So just taking your time, moving with your own breath. We'll do 2 more. Inhale, reach. Feel the sides of your body lifting up, reaching up nice and high. Slowly making your way down. Last one. And then from here, we're going to keep our sit bones down. Just start to walk your hands forward. So reaching out as far as you can, relax the head and neck, and just take a few breaths here. And then you can walk your hands back, moving nice and slow. And we're going to start with our first Yin Yoga pose. We're going to come to a butterfly pose. So you're just going to bring your feet together. And normally, I guess in some yoga classes you bring your heels in really close, but today for this one we're going to bring the heels out a little bit. Draw your shoulders back, just sit up nice and tall. So just taking a breath or two here before we even start to go forward. And then from here, hinging from your hips. So starting moving forward, not from your back, but from your hips. See if you can keep the chest lifted and move forward a little bit from your hips to start with. And then once you've come about as far as you can, go ahead and relax the shoulders, relax your arms, relax your head. Come back to your breath. So in Yin Yoga, we hold each of these poses for anywhere from 3 minutes usually to about 5 minutes or somewhere in between. And the idea is once you kind of make your way into the pose, you want to check in with your body and notice where you're feeling the stretch in your body. So for the butterfly pose, it's mostly targeting your inner legs and your hips. You may also feel it in other places, so maybe you feel it in your back as well. And what you want to do once you're in that pose is you want to come to your edge. So your edge is not the, furthest you can pull yourself down. It's where you're feeling a good stretch, yet you can still allow the muscles to relax. And in Yin Yoga, the purpose is to stretch beyond the tissue of the muscles. So when we do vinyasa yoga, when we do cardio, when we do a lot more movement, we're mostly working on stretching out the tissues in the muscles. When we do Yin Yoga, we want to try to stretch the tissues past the muscles and the ligaments and the joints and even the bones. Those tissues are harder to access. They're a little bit less flexible. So we hold the poses longer and we try to be more gentle. If you're tensing up too much, then your muscles will probably take over and you won't be stretching the other tissues. So the physical part that I was just talking about is one half of Yin Yoga. The other half is kind of the mental part. So you can use each pose, because we're holding it longer, as a time for kind of like a meditation or just even coming back to your breath or just kind of allowing it as a time for you to be with your own thoughts. And you want to also check in during the pose because as we hold it longer, you should be able to go deeper. So just notice if you can go a little bit further and try. See if, as long as it's, not, as long as it feels okay, try to go a little bit further. We'll be here about 2 more deep breaths. From here, take your time. So just moving nice and slow. Start to walk your hands back and just pause sitting up straight for a moment. You might feel kind of stiff. That's normal. So we're just going to kind of take our feet out wide. You can take your hand behind your back, and we're just going to windshield wiper the knees side to side. So just kind of coming to a little counter stretch, slowly bringing some movement back. And then from here, we'll come to reverse tabletop. So bring your heels in towards you, your hands behind you. We're going to lift the hips up. Maybe if it feels okay, let your head drop back, opening up your throat. This is just a counter stretch, so we're only here about 5 breaths. And then you can take your time to lower back down. All right, very good. So our next pose is dragon pose. It's a low lunge. In Yin Yoga, they call it dragon pose. So we're going to start. One thing just for setup, if you have a blanket, that's perfect. You can use that blanket as extra padding for your knees, but we're going to be on our knees for a little bit. So if you don't have a blanket, you might want to just fold your mat a little bit so you have extra padding for your knees. So we're going to have one knee back on the mat and one knee forward. If your mat's thick, you might not need it. So it just depends. But usually it feels kind of nice to have a little extra padding on that knee. So go ahead and check. So we're going to take a moment to set up in the pose. So take a moment. That front knee, you want to make sure it's over top of the ankle. So you want to just kind of make sure it's not here, it's not back here, it's right on top. And then lift up that back knee. Yeah, take your hands down, lift it up, and then see if it can send it back further. And then relax the foot. Yes, and this is a pose. All right, so option here is you can have the fingertips down. We can take the hands to the knee to kind of allow our back to relax a little bit more. It doesn't really matter how your upper body is because we're mostly stretching the lower body. So whichever way you like. And I am going to be kind of timing the poses. And so take a moment in this pose and you want to check in and kind of notice, so where are you feeling the stretch? So this pose is stretching the hip, the inner leg, and also a little bit on the other side. You want to try to allow those muscles to relax into the stretch. Just kind of coming back to your breath and finding some stillness in the pose. From here, we're going to come to a half, it's called half split. So you're going to walk your hand back, work towards straightening that front leg, but you can keep a bend in the knee. So keeping the hips up high over the knee. Unless it feels better, you can come all the way back and stretch it out from here and still feel that stretch in the hamstring. Does it feel okay for your knee? Yeah. So if that one doesn't feel good for your knee, you can change it up and come to a seat, kind of like, and do this one if that feels better. So, yoga is about finding what works for your body. So if a certain pose doesn't work, we just kind of, skip it and do something else. Because that's the purpose, is, doing what feels best for you. And everyone's different, yeah, exactly. Different experiences. So this is actually quite an intense stretch. So it's a pretty intense stretch. for the hamstrings. So if you need to change it, that's fine. We'll do 2 or 3 more breaths here. And then just nice and slow, you're going to make your way out of the pose. And we're just going to stretch it out a little bit. So maybe just, straightening that leg that you were stretching, doing a few hip circles, just kind of moving it around a little. And then from here, maybe coming into a downward facing dog as a counter stretch is just an option. And then when you're ready, we'll come back onto our hands and knees set up for the other side. So either setting up for the lizard pose, here, or if you already know that you want to do this one, that's fine. So if you're in, what did I call it? So if you're in this pose, the dragon pose, make sure your knee's over top of your hip and send that back knee back. Good. And you want to try to find some stillness in the pose. So stillness being not just in your body, but also stillness in your mind. So maybe coming back to your breath if you notice your mind's wandering a little bit too much. And then from here, making your way back, so maybe to that half splits variation where you straighten that front leg, keep the hips high, or you can sit all the way back if that option feels better. It's a little bit more intense on your hamstrings if you keep the hips up high, but it just depends what feels good for your body. And if that pose doesn't work for you, you're just going to find another one. Totally fine. About 2 or 3 more breaths. And then just moving nice and slow, however you want, making your way out of the pose and just stretching out that leg. So maybe reaching it up, doing a few hip circles. And then if you want, coming into a downward facing dog as a optional counter stretch. Downward dog, just being a good stretch for your whole body. So in your downward dog, really feeling that stretch in the back of your legs, your calves, your arms, your shoulders, and even your back. And then we'll make our way back down to our hands and knees, coming into a child's pose for just a few breaths. So taking the knees out wide, sitting back towards the heels, and then you can stretch the arms forward, allowing your forehead to relax on the mat. Good. And then from here, you can walk your hands back. Maybe grab a drink of water here. I'll just kind of pause. I don't have my water. And we're going to make our way, when you're done, we're going to make our way to standing for a ragdoll forward fold. So this is one of our only standing poses in Yin Yoga. But you can just make your way up whenever you're ready. And let's just stretch it out. So once you're up there, just reaching those arms out, maybe interlace the hands, draw the shoulders down and back, and arms by your side. Yeah, and let's take it over to one side, just stretching out the side muscles. And then maybe through to the center, over to the other side. Good. And then back up through to the center. All right, you can release your hands. We're going to keep our feet about hip distance apart. And then with a nice bend in your knees, you're just going to come forward. Let your head hang there. Let your arms hang there. So imagine a rag doll. And you can keep even a really like a nice bend in the knees. If you want, you can grab your elbows on either side. And kind of shake your head yes, shake your head no, just to make sure it's really kind of just hanging there. It's relaxed. If you want, you can sway side to side a few times, just dangling. And kind of start to notice where you feel the stretch. So this stretch is also a very good stretch for our hamstrings. Notice if you start to feel it anywhere else. It's also good inversion is good for anti-aging. So for the face, instead of it always kind of coming down, it's kind of making everything go in the opposite direction. I know, and I wish I knew about sunscreen when I was a kid too. Spread out your toes. Feel yourself grounding through your feet. So maybe even sending your body weight just back towards the heels just a little bit, and then forward towards the toes, and then trying to settle in the middle. About 2 or 3 more breaths. And then from here, we're going to heel toe our feet farther apart. We're going to set up for a yogi squat. So your feet are going to be at a diagonal about the width of the mat. So you can make your way down to a yogi squat. Bring your hips down. So option, if you need to, is to come up onto the toes. If you find that more accessible, you can stay up here as well. But if you can, you want to come all the way down. So just kind of testing what you can do. And sometimes it does help to be on your toes. If you can bring the heels down, bring the heels down. This pose we're not holding as long because it's much more intense. So yeah, you can always do kind of like a goddess pose too, maybe more up here as an option. And this works our core, taking the knees out to the side. Coming back to your breath here. And then from here, you can bring your hands back down. We're going to lift our hips up, heel toe the feet together, back to a forward fold for just a few breaths. And then from here, we're slowly just going to roll up. So you can let your arms kind of hang there, let your head hang there. So you start to roll up nice and slow. And then once you're up, you can roll your shoulders back a few times. Good. All right. So from here, we're just going to make our way onto our knees. We're going to set up for a yogi toe stretch. So we're going to come back down on our knees one more time. Just stretching out the toes. So you're going to kind of flex your toes behind you. Yeah, and if you need to, that's a good idea. So making your mat a little thicker. Spread out your toes. You can even do that with your hands. Flexing them, and that starts to stretch them out because we usually don't think to stretch out our toes. And so if you want it to be a little gentler, you can come forward, take a little weight off of the toes, or you can sit back and it places a little bit more weight on the toes. And again, this is not one that we hold quite as long. So if you're sitting back, one thing that we can do to kind of take our mind off of our toes is to stretch out our arms. So let's inhale, open up our chest if you're sitting back. Anytime you need to, you can come out of it. Just bring the tops of your feet down, no problem. And then we'll give ourselves a hug. If you still hold it, try to hold it. So we're going to come to the eagle arms. So either eagle arms or just bring the forearms together, squeezing the shoulder blades together. And then we'll inhale, open up again. And eagle arms, try to remember which arm was on the top, which arm was on the bottom. We'll switch sides. So maybe just pausing here, squeezing the shoulder blades together in the front. And then if you want, bringing the forearms together here or into that little twist. And then you can release, open up. We'll take about 3 more deep breaths. And then when you're ready, you can release, just kind of patting the tops of the feet down on the mat. And then our counter stretch will also be a little bit of an ankle stretch. We'll sit back, hands behind us. We're going to lift the knees up. And that's going to be a counter stretch for the toes, but also a stretch for the top of the ankles. Just about 2 or 3 more breaths. And then we can make our way forward. We're going to come to a seat. All right, so we're going to set up for, it's called shoelace pose. So there's two variations, 2 options. So the first one, we're going to let's cross our right foot over our left foot. And option to stay here, one leg out long, one knee bent. From here, if possible, you're going to walk that foot over to the side, but if you just want to keep it up here, that's fine too. Okay, so this is one option. The other option, if you're more flexible, you're going to bend that other knee back. So if you can do this and keep both sit bones down and it doesn't feel super uncomfortable. So everyone's a little different. This is perfectly fine too, because this, you still stretch out the hamstring a lot. You're getting, so noticing on the knee that's on top, that hip, you're stretching that hip out by it being on top. And we're going to start out just adding a twist. So whatever knee's on top, right knee's on top, take the left hand to that knee. We're going to twist looking over your right shoulder. Yes. Staying here for a few breaths. And then come back through to the center. You're going to take your left hand down, and we're just going to do a side stretch. So left hand will come down the side, maybe elbow bends in towards you, and just reach up and over to the side. Good. So stretching out those side muscles, the obliques, they get tight from sitting a lot during the day. And then you can come forward. So from here, to go deeper in the stretch, you're going to start to move forward either way. So even if you're here, if you already feel the stretch here, you're just going to stay here. But if you can, you're just going to walk the hands forward, relax the head, relax the shoulders, wherever you're at. So also, just one thing I forgot to mention, if with your feet, if you have both feet in towards you, heels in towards you, it's going to be easier. If you bring your heels away from you, it's going to be harder. So that's just something to kind of notice. And most importantly, no matter what stretch you're doing, using this time as kind of like a time to just breathe, a time for yourself, just appreciating being outdoors as it's cooler, appreciating the water. Coming back to your breath. About 2 more deep breaths here. And then you can start to walk your hands back. Just kind of pause with the straight back. You can slowly untwist your legs and just shake them out a little bit in front. And we'll windshield wipe our knees side to side a few times just to kind of release our spine. And then we'll come to that reverse tabletop pose. So counter stretch, hands behind you, heels in towards you, lifting the hips up, maybe dropping the head back. And then you can make your way back down. And we're going to set up for the other side. So taking the right leg forward, cross the left knee on top, or just making sure you switch, most importantly. All right, so maybe staying here if that feels good. If you can, you're going to see if you can walk that foot over to the side, putting the knees on top of each other, but you don't need to. Maybe staying here or testing this side, seeing if you can bend that other knee back. All right, so both sit bones are down. We're going to start with the twist. So if the left knee's on top, take your right hand to the outside of the left knee, looking over the left shoulder this time. Deep breath. The twisting being good for our spine and for our back. And then you can make your way back through to the center. We're going to take our right hand down. Left arm reaches up, bending that right elbow in, reach up and over to the side. So nice side stretch, oblique stretch. And then you can slowly make your way back up. So option, if you're feeling a good stretch here, you're just going to stay here sitting up tall, or start to come forward to intensify the stretch. About 2 more deep breaths. And then you can slowly walk your hands back. Just come to sitting up nice and straight. Take your time to untwist your legs, shaking them out a little bit. And we'll just do the same counter stretches. We'll windshield wiper our knees side to side a few times. And then come to reverse tabletop. Heels in towards you, lift up. So reverse tabletop is a good counter stretch to the forward folding. And then you can lower back down. And if you want, grab a drink of water, and we're going to make our way onto our back. And we'll finish on our back. So once you're on your back, let's hug our knees into our chest and just do a few circles. So just doing 3 or 4 circles in each direction. Massaging your lower back onto the mat. And then from here, we're going to stretch it out long. So straighten your feet on the mat, reach your arms up overhead, and just make yourself long, pointing the toes, feeling the energy reach from your fingertips all the way down through your body. From here, you're going to bring both arms straight up to the sky. So we're setting up for banana pose. And you're going to make a frame with the elbows right above your chest. So you're grabbing either elbow just right up overhead if you want to kind of look up to see. And then we're going to bring it up overhead. So that's all we're doing is setting up for banana pose if you know what that is. So take your hips and move your hips a little bit to the left side of the mat so you have more space. So you have more space on your right. And you're going to walk the feet together over to the right side of the mat, maybe crossing the right ankle above the left, and then inch your upper body over to the right side, making a banana shape with your body. So you want to think hips to the left, feet to the right, upper body slightly to the right. So, yes. So making this long banana shape and feeling the stretch in your obliques. So all along the left side of your body, or along one side of your body. From here, you can uncross your ankles, bring your feet back through to the center, reach your arms up overhead again, just stretch it out. And then we'll set up for the other side. So this time, move your body over to the right side or the opposite side of the mat. Hips are going to stay to that side. Make that frame with your arms, so grabbing the elbows and then bringing it up overhead. Relaxing on the mat behind you, and then walking your feet to the left side of the mat, maybe crossing the right ankle on top of the left ankle, and then inching your head, your chest, your upper body just a little bit over to the left as well, and just kind of picturing this banana shape with your body where the hips are to the right, The feet are to the left and the upper body is a little bit to the left. From here, taking your time to kind of uncross your ankles, bring your feet back through to the center, upper body back to the center. From here, we'll bend our knees. We're going to bring our knees to our chest, so you can take one hand on each knee, and we're going to take our knees out wide, flexing our feet. And then maybe making our way into a happy baby pose. So bringing the feet up towards the sky, reaching for the outside of maybe the ankles, the outside of the calves, or the outside of the feet. And then you can rock side to side a few times. Maybe press your lower back down into the mat. And then lift it up, seeing which one you like better. And then from here, we'll kind of play with our happy baby. So bend one knee in a little bit more, work towards straightening the other leg. Just kind of stretching it out a little bit. And then you can always switch sides when you're ready. Bending one knee in a lot, straightening out the other leg. Maybe both legs stretch out. And then we'll place the feet together. We're going to come to a lying down butterfly stretch. So the feet are going to be together. Let the knees kind of just relax out to the side. Option to just kind of open up the palms. Let the shoulders relax. Let the chest relax. If you prefer, you can have one hand on your belly, one hand on your heart, and just kind of using the placement of your hands to notice the rise and fall of your belly and your chest as you're breathing. And if this feels comfortable here, You can stay right here for Shavasana, or if you prefer, you can straighten your legs out. Maybe allow the feet to naturally open up out to the side. Or find some other comfortable position for the last few minutes of class. So the last few minutes of class is just relaxation. So just allowing your back to lie flat on the mat. Allowing your body to sink a little bit deeper into the mat. Noticing if you have any tension left in your body and consciously trying to just release that area, relax that area. Allow yourself to just let go for these last few moments. Just coming to a normal breath. And from here, take a nice deep inhale in through your nose. Complete exhale. And we'll do that again. Nice deep inhale. Complete exhale. And then start to bring some movement back to your fingers, to your toes. Maybe rolling out your ankles, rolling out your wrists a few times. And then you can reach your arms up overhead, bend your knees like you're just kind of waking up in the morning. Yes. And roll onto one side, just kind of taking your time before you make your way up. So maybe pausing on your side for 2 or 3 breaths. And whenever you're ready, pushing yourself all the way up to a seat. All right, very good. So we'll just finish by bringing our hands to our heart center. Let's take one more deep inhale, reach our arms out and up. Exhale, bringing the palms back down. Just taking a moment to feel a sense of gratitude. Thanking yourself for coming out, doing something good for your body, for your mind, maybe trying something new. And just allow the positive energy that you feel from class to be a benefit to yourself and the people around you throughout the evening and throughout the day tomorrow. Namaste. All right. And now the sun's set. It's like so much cooler. It's darker. Awesome. Hi, Artie.
Hi. Thank you. Bye.
I'll just spin you around so you can say hi to everyone.
Hi. Hi. I know Janie's up top. No, I'm just kidding.
They're not paying any attention.
Yeah.
I think so.
Hi. All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Awesome. Bye.